Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. X-Men Grand Design is the best Marvel comic book I read all year. I like it even more than Mr. Miracle, and I like it as much as Batman White Knight. This reads like a treatise on how to tell quick, fast-paced storytelling, and it's the if you need a visual guide for what the exact opposite of the spectrum is from pace for the trade, this is it. There was a little what looked like a printing error in mine, so I'm going to go buy a second copy of it. If I can find a second copy, I will give that away as a prize. If I can't find a second copy, then I'll give some other random digital comic book away as a prize. So like, comment, and subscribe if you want to enter to win either the digital code for this or for another comic if I can't find a second copy of this. But I am going to get more copies of this, and I'll probably give away the printing error one. So Ed Piskor, I've read part one of his Hip Hop Family Tree, and he has essentially done the same thing he did for Hip Hop Family Tree for X-Men, but the narrative is a little better for this X-Men comic. It was sometimes a little hard to follow the narrative of Hip Hop Family Tree because he was giving you so much information and showing you so many people. I think it's great because he's continuing a thing he did that made him kind of a hit, but I think he's even getting better at his craft of not just condensing a whole lot of information, but making it compelling in its own right. Ed Piskor describes himself as a cartoonist, and I think the elephant in the room is that he has a rough drawing style, and I love this drawing style, and I'm going to defend it. In the very early days of comics, it was a blue-collar medium, it was a cheap medium, and they were getting people who weren't good enough for the kind of Norman Rockwell illustration jobs. So I have a feeling if we could send Ed Piskor back in time, he would be a comics legend like Steve Ditko from that era, and he doesn't need sort of the subtle sophistication of, kind of post Neil Adams artists or Renaissance-ish artists. I'm liking his work better than a lot of DC comics I've been reading where there's maybe a little bit more fluidity to the line, but it's just way too stretched out. It's way too slow. He is showing his passion in every page and every panel of this book, and let's just take a look at it. Okay, so let's just flip through it with you, and I'll skip a few pages. So the Watcher, of course, is the one who is witnessing this and recording the events of the X-Men, and it actually sets the idea of the comic book up well because the Watcher has waited until witnessing all these events unfolding before recording anything because he kind of wanted to let his thoughts settle and to show the grand sweep excuse me, of the design. I thought the Watcher was dead, but it's kind of vague when this takes place. So it starts back in the Golden Age with Namor and probably the original Human Torch and Charles Xavier's father. This white. So this is faux newsprint. When you touch it, it's not the waxy paper. It's a little bit more of a parchment paper, which is good. That helps reinforce the illusion. At first, I was going to say I wish they used actual newsprint and went whole hog, but by using faux newsprint, they actually get to use white. Ed Piskor gets to use white for creative effect in certain panels, and it really jumps off the page when everything else is this sort of part aged newsprint. Also, it's not just yellow. There are some lame Marvel House ads that are supposed to look old school that just add yellow to everything, but this actually is a digital recreation of the feel and texture of newsprint. So eventually my mind just accepts it, even though I know it's not actual newsprint. I accept it as newsprint and I just start reading. Second, in Ed Piskor's coloring, he doesn't just imitate old school coloring for the sake of doing a bit like Old Man Logan is doing, where they'll just have lots of big dots to say, hey, it's a comic book, guys. Did we tell you it's a comic book? It's got big dots. He actually imitates the look of an old comic book so that you can just accept it and start reading. And this reminds me of Renoir and pointillist paintings where the idea is color that's separated has a different feel to it than color that is mixed. And he's not just imitating that for the sake of saying, oh, look, big dots. You accept it as an old comic book as you're reading it. Excellent way of using the color smartly to create a feel and not let the experimental weird things you're doing overpower everything and distract you. You start accepting the story and you just start getting into it. Everything is tightly paced, and he he is aware of how to put everything onto one page so that as you're flipping through the physical comic book, things feel fitting. So you kind of get to the end of a story, right? Captain America and Wolverine, something mysterious happens to Captain America's shield to rescue this boy. We later find out it's Magneto, and then we poof over to Charles Xavier. One page of Charles Xavier, you turn the page back to Magneto. And then end of page, back to Charles Xavier. So it's not, it's using each page as a separate artwork and giving each page a theme. And the act of turning a page is significant because that's sort of the signal to you that change. It's the equivalent of change of scene from a movie. So you change of scene, and now it's devoted to Charles Xavier in Egypt and Charles Xavier fighting the Shadow King. And here's where I really started to notice the white being used very creatively. My last experience reading all this X-Men stuff, some of this I knew from the cartoons and from flashbacks and newer comics. I read the X-Men Essentials books decades ago, the old black and white ones with I think I read some of like the original Team of 4 X-Men up through the Brood War and kind of Wolverine and Cyclops and Storm. So I think I sped read most of the X-Men's history when I was a little kid. But this was an excellent refresher. I kind of missed who this kid is supposed to be. This is his kid through Gabrielle. And maybe it'll come up in the next issue. But I guess that's what Wikipedia is for. Generally, Ed Piskor is explaining everything I need to know who's who, what their relationship is, what the psychology is, what the dynamics are, what the importance is. You know, a chess scene between Xavier and Magneto where they're expressing their philosophies and foreshadowing the battle between the X-Men and the Brotherhood. I kind of remembered this from just reading the Jean Grey comics. Those are really good too. I just have so much praise for it. And I guess the one thing I'd caution you is this is going to spoil some of the surprises of X-Men, summa spoilerum, because if you were reading the X-Men comic, you know, you would find out, hey, Scott Summers' dad is alive. Ta-da! Aren't you surprised? And in this, since it's doing everything chronologically, it tells you that Scott Summers' dad is alive at the time it happened in history, rather than waiting for dramatic effect later during the Dark Phoenix saga, I guess. What else does he do? Okay, I want to just find it, because there's one really amazing panel that sets a lot of this up. I guess here's something I'm thinking about. So the X-Men have always been kind of a metaphor for race or for homosexuality or for some other type of outcast group. And Stan Lee used to compare him to Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ gets beat up by the very people that he's trying to save, right? So the left then looks at this and says, ha, right, the comic books were always vehicles of social justice. But I think they're misunderstanding what metaphor is for. Metaphor is to express a broad idea in a fantasy context. And you can't make a metaphor work if you hit people over the head or if you try to transform one thing into another thing. So what I dislike about the movie Zootopia is it's supposed to be about race, but what it really is about microaggressions. And this kind of thing where his parents talk about Bobby Drake having a condition that needs treatment, and everyone acts like, oh, they think he has a condition. Well, he froze a kid's arm off, and he freaked out and covered himself in ice, and he could potentially kill people. So yes, it's completely understandable that his parents would want him to have treatment so that he doesn't accidentally kill or maim a whole bunch of people. So I don't like the idea of these comics treating microaggressions as the same thing as bigotry, but that's just something that the new left has decided are equivalent to each other. To microaggress is to be a bigot, to bigot is to be a bigot is to microaggress. But a thought I've always had is that if you're looking for political metaphors for the X-Men, the most obvious one is the Second Amendment, because their powers are essentially the equivalent of being born with a gun attached to your face, or having nuclear warheads for hands. So of course people want to have some sort of government legislation to regulate people with nuclear warheads for hands. But you know, Ed Piskor clearly loves the X-Men. He's capturing the heart of the themes of the X-Men throughout the decades. So I'll forgive that and keep on going. Things are done off panel. So Magneto will rescue these two, and they'll ask, are they all dead? Every last one of them. They allow your imagination to fill in some of the gaps as we're clicking through this. I want to find the Beast because there's a really good example of something in there. Okay, so Beast is his parents are threatened, and the Conquistador and Toad are telling him that unless you get something for us, we're going to kill them. So all in one panel, they show us a whole escapade of him breaking in, grabbing the thing, getting out, getting to the escape car. One panel, condensed, hitting us, not wasting our time, keeping it moving, getting it down to one page. Yes, yes, yes. Snap. I love it. I probably missed the printing error. Whatever. I don't need to show the printing error. There's humor. There's good. Ed Piskor is using the rectangular panel because he knows that A, that fits with the old time comics that he's evoking, and B, it's letting him use his space smartly. We're getting into the rhythm and the pattern, and the punch and the color are what is sucking us in, rather than goofy doofy stuff with the panels. So it's really straightforward. It's really hard hitting. Sometimes his drawing's a little stiff, but it's always expressive. It's always punchy. It's always passionate. This is a passionate artist making a labor of love, and I am so excited about this. This is, I can't show anymore. Okay, well, let's see here. I just want to show, he paid homage to a whole list of names who contributed to the history of X-Men. So I did skip a few pages, and they've got additional reading for page by page of what you can go to read more about these characters. Reading this, it was so dense. Every page felt like a whole comic book. This was worth my money. I'm going to go get another copy of it. I am so happy with this. Top Marvel book of the year, highest recommend, beats everything from Marvel I've read this year, and you will be proud having this in your library. This is going to be big. This is a perfect review and introduction to the X-Men characters. I hope they contract Ed to do more of this with other Marvel characters, because this is one of the barriers to superhero comic books in the modern era, is the complexity of their history and trying to understand all the time travel and multi-dimension stuff that's going on. This was digestible, understandable. Mwah! Que bella! I love this. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to go try to get a second copy. If I can get a second copy, the digital code will be the prize for this one. If I'm unable to obtain a second copy, you know what? I'll just commit to it. I will make this one the prize for this video. So like, comment, subscribe if you want the digital code for X-Men Grand Design, but you're going to want to go buy this yourself anyway. Love you guys. Catch you later. P.S. After I finished my video, I looked at this and realized there is no digital code for X-Men Grand Design at this point. So disregard what I said before. I'm upping the ante. This isn't for a digital comic. I'm giving away this physical copy of X-Men Grand Design. It's got a minor printing error in it, but apart from that, it's in great shape. You're going to love it. I'm going to go buy a second copy to replace this copy. If you want this physical comic book, I'll give you a bag and board for it, and I'll do a fun drawing on the back. I want you to share this review on any other social media site, Twitter, Facebook, Gab, Minds, whatever you use. We'll just go honor system because I'm not going to go policing around. But after you've shared my review on another social media platform, like, comment, and subscribe. And in your comment, say something like, I shared this or shared it, something to let me know that you've shared it and you're entering to get this physical comic book. I will give you guys, let's say 3 days to share this, and then I'll close. I won't close the comments, but I'll stop accepting new comments. I'll enter those in a random number generator, and make sure you say something like shared it, and make sure you're okay giving me your address later if you want this physical comic mailed to you. Love you guys. Catch you later. Marvel, please pay Ed Piskor a lot. If he wants to do this with any other characters like Spider-Man or Hulk or Avengers or something, give him enough so that he really wants to do it, and hire him to do more of this. This is entry-level stuff to get people hooked into to the comics world and into these characters. Love you guys. Catch you later.